I stood in my parents' living room during Thanksgiving dinner, watching my older brother Derek and his wife Chloe openly mock my wife Emma for being a simple country girl who grows vegetables and raises chickens. Derek bragged about Chloe's fashion career and their luxury downtown penthouse, while dismissing my custom woodworking business as a hobby. Emma sat quietly, absorbing the insults with grace. My parents said nothing, subtly nodding along with Derek's superiority. The camera on Chloe's phone captured Emma's homemade pie being compared unfavorably to a store-bought cheesecake. I felt my blood boiling but held back. The moment that Thanksgiving dinner ended, I helped Emma gather her things in silence. She smiled at me with that patient expression I had come to know so well over our 3 years of marriage, the one that said she understood everything without needing words. As we drove home through the November darkness, I found myself thinking back to our wedding day and how different things might have been if my family had shown even a fraction of the warmth that Emma's family had given me. Our wedding had taken place in Emma's small hometown, a rural community about 2 hours outside the city where I grew up. The ceremony was held in a century-old church with wooden pews worn smooth by generations of families. Emma's parents had transformed their barn into a reception hall, stringing lights across the rafters and filling long tables with food they had grown and prepared themselves. It was beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with money and everything to do with love and effort. But my family had complained from the moment they received the invitation. My mother had pressed me repeatedly to have what she called a proper city wedding, suggesting venues downtown that cost more than most people earn in a year. When I explained that Emma and I wanted something meaningful rather than expensive, my mother's face had tightened with barely concealed embarrassment. She worried aloud about what her friends would think, about how she would explain a barn wedding to her social circle. Derek's toast at the reception had been the first real warning sign, though I had tried to dismiss it at the time. He stood up with a glass of champagne, his smile just a little too wide, and delivered what sounded like compliments but landed like insults. He joked about Emma teaching me to milk cows and suggested I would soon be trading my tools for a pitchfork. People laughed, but it was the uncomfortable kind of laughter that fills awkward silences. Emma's father, a quiet man named Tom with calloused hands and kind eyes, had simply looked down at his plate. Emma's parents were everything my family was not. Tom and his wife Patricia ran a modest vegetable farm that had been in their family for generations. They sold produce at a roadside stand during the growing season and spent their winters planning and preparing for the next year. They lived in a simple farmhouse with a wraparound porch, where Patricia grew flowers in the summer and Tom built birdhouses in his workshop during the winter months. They were warm, genuine people who measured success by the health of their soil and the strength of their community relationships. I had fallen in love with Emma precisely because she embodied those same values. We met at a farmer's market where she was selling vegetables and homemade preserves. I had been there looking for reclaimed wood for my furniture projects, and we struck up a conversation that lasted 3 hours. She knew the Latin names of plants, could identify birds by their calls, and spoke about sustainability and land stewardship with a passion that made my heart race. Her hands were strong from work, her laugh was genuine, and she did not care about impressing anyone. When Emma and I started looking for a place to build my woodworking workshop, her family had helped us find the perfect spot. It was 10 acres of gently rolling land with mature oak trees and a small creek running through one corner. The property had good road access but felt private and peaceful. Tom had known the area well and had introduced us to the owner, helping us negotiate a fair arrangement. I built my workshop there, a large timber frame building that I designed and constructed myself with help from Emma's father and brothers. My custom furniture business had grown steadily over 3 years. I specialized in handcrafted pieces using traditional joinery techniques and locally sourced hardwoods. Each table, chair, or cabinet took weeks or even months to complete, but my clients appreciated the artistry and were willing to wait. I had orders backed up for 6 months and had recently been featured in a regional design magazine. The work was demanding but deeply satisfying, and the business generated a comfortable income. But my family dismissed it all as blue-collar work, as if creating something beautiful with my hands was somehow less valuable than pushing money around on computers. Derek worked in finance, something to do with investment portfolios and leveraged assets that he explained in ways designed to make others feel ignorant. He and Chloe lived in an expensive high-rise apartment downtown, all glass and steel and minimal furniture that probably cost more than it was worth. My parents constantly compared us, always with Derek coming out ahead. At family gatherings, they would ask Derek about his latest deals and investments, leaning forward with interest and pride. When they turned to me, the questions were perfunctory, and they usually changed the subject before I could answer in any detail. My mother would mention Derek's accomplishments to her friends while glossing over what I did for a living, as if she could not quite figure out how to make woodworking sound impressive. The comparisons extended to our wives as well. Chloe worked in fashion marketing for a boutique agency, planning events and managing social media for clothing brands. She dressed in sharp, expensive outfits and spoke in the casual, name-dropping way of someone constantly trying to prove they belonged in elite circles. My mother adored her, frequently commenting on Chloe's style and sophistication. Emma, by contrast, preferred jeans and simple shirts, her hair usually pulled back in a practical ponytail. She spent her free time in her vegetable garden or tending to the small flock of chickens we kept for eggs. She canned tomatoes and pickles, baked bread from scratch, and was taking online courses in agricultural business management. But my family saw only a country girl playing farmer, someone who had not learned to dress properly or appreciate the finer things. The disrespect had been building for years, but it reached a new low at a family dinner 6 months before that terrible Thanksgiving. Derek had chosen an expensive restaurant downtown, the kind of place where the menu had no prices and the portions were absurdly small. We sat at a large table, and the conversation flowed around wines and vacation destinations and fashion trends. Emma participated when she could, but the topics were deliberately chosen to exclude her. At one point, I excused myself to use the restroom. On my way back, I passed near where my mother stood, talking to one of her friends who had stopped by the table. I heard my mother's voice clearly, pitched in that tone of confidential complaint. "I just do not know what Robert was thinking," she said. "I mean, she is a sweet girl, but so plain. And this whole farming thing, I keep hoping it is just a phase. I tell people he is in custom furniture design because I cannot bear to say he is a woodworker. It sounds so blue-collar." Her friend made sympathetic noises, and my mother continued. "And now Derek is doing so well, engaged in real business, real success. I just wish Robert had shown the same ambition." I stood frozen for a moment, the words landing like physical blows. When I returned to the table, my mother smiled at me as if nothing had happened. I said nothing then, but later when I confronted her privately, she waved it off as a joke, claiming I had misunderstood or was being too sensitive. My father backed her up, suggesting I was overreacting. That night, driving home with Emma, I realized that my family's disrespect was not going to change. It was not a misunderstanding or a temporary problem. It was who they were, how they saw the world. They measured worth by status symbols and social positioning, and by their metrics, Emma and I would always come up short. Emma had simply squeezed my hand and said she loved me for who I was, not for what my family thought of me. But I saw the hurt in her eyes, the hurt she tried so hard to hide. 6 months passed, and Derek's displays of wealth became increasingly flashy. He bought a new luxury car, some German model with a price tag that could have funded a small business. He posted pictures on social media constantly, showing off restaurant meals, designer purchases, and weekend getaways to expensive resorts. Each post seemed to include a subtle dig at simpler lifestyles, with captions about appreciating the finer things or investing in quality over quantity. My parents ate it up, sharing his posts and commenting with pride. They suggested repeatedly that I should ask Derek for business advice, as if his financial success meant he knew something about craftsmanship and honest work. Derek himself became insufferable, dropping hints about major investment deals and strategic partnerships with the casual arrogance of someone who thought money equaled wisdom. The breaking point came at a family gathering in early spring. Derek had called everyone together for a special announcement, insisting we meet at my parents' house on a Sunday afternoon. We gathered in their living room, and Derek stood at the center like a politician about to address his constituents. "I wanted to share some exciting news with the family," he began, his smile wide and self-satisfied. "I have just committed to a major investment in a commercial real estate development project. We are talking about a mixed-use complex in the downtown corridor, high-end retail and luxury condos. The projections are incredible. This is going to be huge." My parents applauded, my mother actually clapping her hands together in delight. Derek basked in the attention, going on about leveraged financing and market positioning and expected returns. Then he turned to me. "Robert, I have been thinking you should get in on this," he said. "I know you have been building up some savings with your furniture business. This is exactly the kind of opportunity that could take you to the next level. Real wealth building, not just trading time for money." I felt Emma stiffen beside me. I kept my voice level. "I appreciate the offer, Derek, but I am happy with what I am building. My business is growing steadily, and I like the control and stability." Derek's smile tightened. "That is exactly the kind of thinking that keeps people stuck, Robert. You have to take risks to make real money. Playing it safe with your little workshop is fine if you want to stay small, but do not you want more?" "I have what I want," I said simply. Chloe jumped in, her tone dripping with false concern. "Derek is just trying to help you, Robert. It must be hard watching everyone else succeed while you are still working with your hands like a tradesman. This could be your chance to catch up." Emma's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. I wanted to walk out, but I stayed seated. My father cleared his throat. "Derek does have a point, son. You have always been talented, but talent only goes so far. Maybe it is time to think bigger." The conversation moved on, but the message was clear. My family saw my refusal to jump into Derek's investment scheme as another sign of my limited ambition, my small thinking. They could not understand that I did not want what Derek had, that his version of success looked hollow to me. Over the following weeks, Derek's behavior became stranger. He called me late one evening, his voice slightly slurred, talking rapidly about market fluctuations and investor confidence. He seemed stressed despite all his bragging, and he drank more at family gatherings. He took frequent phone calls that he stepped away to answer, returning with a forced smile that did not reach his eyes. At a barbecue at my parents' house in June, Derek's business partner Trevor showed up. I had met Trevor a few times before, a nervous man with thinning hair who always seemed to be calculating something in his head. That day, he looked particularly anxious, barely eating and checking his phone constantly. When I tried to make conversation, he gave vague, evasive answers and excused himself quickly. Near the end of that barbecue, my parents made an announcement that sent a chill through me. They had decided to invest a significant portion of their retirement savings with Derek's firm, $200,000. Money they had spent decades accumulating was now tied up in whatever deals Derek was making. My mother beamed as she said it, so proud to be part of her successful son's ventures. Over the following weeks, Derek's behavior became stranger. He called me late one evening, his voice slightly slurred, talking rapidly about market fluctuations and investor confidence. He seemed stressed despite all his bragging, and he drank more at family gatherings. He took frequent phone calls that he stepped away to answer, returning with a forced smile that did not reach his eyes. My father's face hardened. "Your brother knows what he is doing, Robert. Just because you do not understand finance does not mean the rest of us should not take advantage of opportunities. Frankly, you sound jealous." I tried once more. "I am not jealous. I am concerned. Putting that much of your retirement into one investment seems risky, and that is why you will never build real wealth," my father said, walking away. Emma had been quiet during most of these family gatherings, but I knew she was paying attention. She had a way of observing people, of seeing through surfaces to what lay beneath. One night as we lay in bed, she said softly, "Your brother is in trouble, Robert. I do not know what kind, but something is very wrong." "What makes you say that?" I asked, though I had been thinking the same thing. "He is performing," she said. "All that bragging and flashing money around, it feels desperate, like he is trying to convince himself as much as everyone else. And did you see how much he drank at the barbecue? That is not celebration drinking. That is stress drinking." 2 weeks later, my suspicions were confirmed in the strangest way. I was working late in my workshop, hand-planing a piece of walnut for a dining table, when I heard a car pull up outside. It was nearly 10 o'clock, and I was not expecting anyone. When I opened the door, Derek stumbled in, clearly drunk. "Robert," he said, his words slurring together. "I needed to talk to someone who is not involved, you know? Someone outside the whole mess." "What mess, Derek?" I helped him to a chair in my workshop office. He put his head in his hands. "The development deal. It is falling apart. The primary investor pulled out, and now the whole financing structure is collapsing. Trevor is panicking, talking about liability and lawsuits. We used leveraged financing, Robert. Do you know what that means? It means we borrowed against projected returns that are not going to happen. It means if this goes bad, it goes really bad." I felt my stomach drop. "What about Mom and Dad's money?" "What mess, Derek?" I helped him to a chair in my workshop office. His phone rang, and he lurched to his feet, suddenly alert. "I have to take this." He stumbled outside, and I heard his voice taking on that false confidence again, assuring whoever was on the line that everything was under control. "Robert," he said, his words slurring together. "I needed to talk to someone who is not involved, you know? Someone outside the whole mess." Derek looked up, his eyes unfocused. "That is in a different fund. It should be fine. Probably. I do not know. Everything is connected in ways I did not understand when I started. Trevor handled the complex structures, and now I am realizing I do not fully understand my own investments." "I was not being smart," I said. "I just knew I did not understand what you were doing, and I do not gamble with money I cannot afford to lose." The next day, I called Derek to check on him and to ask about our conversation. He denied that anything was wrong, his voice tight and defensive. "I was drunk, Robert. I was talking nonsense. Everything with the development is fine. Better than fine. Do not worry about things you do not understand." But I did worry, and I knew Emma was right. My brother was in serious trouble, and the whole family was about to find out just how serious it was. 2 months later, in late August, I was in my workshop when I took a break to check the news on my phone. A headline caught my eye immediately. "Major downtown development project. Declares bankruptcy. Investors face losses." My hands went cold as I read the article. The development Derek had been so excited about had collapsed spectacularly. The piece detailed a complex web of over-leveraged financing, cost overruns, and mismanagement. Several investment firms were named, and Derek's company was prominently featured. The article mentioned lawsuits already being filed by investors who claimed they had been misled about the risks. I tried calling Derek immediately, but the call went straight to voicemail. I tried 3 more times over the next hour with the same result. I texted him, asking if he was okay and if there was anything I could do. No response. I called my parents, but they did not answer either. Emma came out to the workshop when she saw my face. I showed her the article, and she read it carefully, her expression grave. "This is what he was worried about that night," she said. "This is the collapse he was afraid of." "My parents have money in his firm," I said, the full weight of it hitting me. $200,000. Emma was quiet for a moment. "Let's wait and see what happens. Maybe it is not as bad as it seems." But it was worse. Much worse. 3 days later, my phone rang at 6 in the morning. It was my mother, and she was nearly hysterical. "Robert, you need to come to the house right now. It is Derek. Everything is falling apart. Your father and I need you here." We dressed quickly and drove to my parents' house. When we arrived, the scene was chaotic. My mother was crying in the kitchen. My father sat at the dining room table with papers spread everywhere, his face gray. Derek slumped in a chair in the living room, looking like he had not slept in days. Chloe sat beside him, her makeup smeared from crying. My father explained the situation in a hollow voice. Derek's investment firm was being sued by multiple clients for misrepresentation and breach of fiduciary duty. The development project's bankruptcy had triggered a cascade of problems because Derek had used something called cross-collateralization, tying multiple investments together. When one failed, it pulled others down with it. Derek had leveraged everything. He had taken out loans against his penthouse to invest more money into deals that were now worthless. His personal assets were tied up in guarantees he had made to secure financing. Chloe's income had dried up because her fashion company had let her go, worried about the association with the scandal. They were facing foreclosure on their penthouse, and my parents' retirement money was gone. Not all of it, but most of it. Of the $200,000 they had invested, they might recover $20,000 or $30,000 if they were lucky. The rest had vanished into the wreckage of Derek's collapsed empire. My mother could barely speak through her tears. "We are going to lose everything. We will have to sell the house. Your father cannot retire. We are back to where we were 30 years ago." Derek sat motionless, not defending himself, not explaining. He just stared at the floor while Chloe cried beside him. My father looked at me with an expression I had never seen before, something desperate and demanding. "Robert, we need your help. We need the family to come together." "What kind of help?" I asked, though I already knew where this was going. "Derek needs $350,000 to settle his most urgent debts and legal issues," my father said. "If he can settle quickly, he can avoid criminal charges and maybe save something from this. Your mother and I do not have it." We gave him everything we could. There was a long silence. Emma stood beside me, her presence steady and calm. "And you want me to provide that money?" I said quietly. "You have your business," my mother said, her voice rising. "You have the property, the workshop. You could sell it or take out loans against it. Derek is your brother. This is what family does. We help each other." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. They wanted me to destroy everything I had built, to gamble my entire livelihood on bailing out Derek's reckless mistakes. "I worked for years to build that business," I said, keeping my voice level. "I built every part of that workshop with my own hands. The business supports Emma and me. You are asking me to risk everything." "We are not asking," my father said, his voice hard. "We are telling you. This is family. Derek made mistakes, but he is still your brother. If you do not help him, he could go to prison. Your mother and I will lose our home. Is that what you want?" Derek finally looked up. "Please, Robert. I know I messed up. I know I was arrogant and stupid. But I am begging you. I will pay you back, I swear. I just need help getting through this." Chloe wiped her eyes and looked at me. "You always kept things small and safe. You never took risks. Well, now your family needs you to step up for once. Emma probably wants to keep the money for her farm fantasies, but this is bigger than that." The comment about Emma cut through everything else. I felt Emma's hand on my arm, gentle but firm, keeping me grounded. "How much exactly does Derek need?" I asked. My father shuffled papers. $350,000 would cover the most urgent settlements and legal fees. It would give him breathing room to reorganize and figure out what comes next. The number was staggering. It was more than my business was worth in terms of cash value. I would have to sell the property, liquidate equipment, destroy years of work. "I am not going to do that," I said quietly. The room exploded. My mother started crying harder, accusing me of abandoning the family. My father stood up, his face red, saying I was not the son he raised. Derek put his head in his hands. Chloe's expression turned hateful. "You are really going to let your brother go to prison?" my mother shouted. "You are going to let us lose everything? After all we did for you, raising you, supporting you?" "You never supported me," I said, my voice still calm but firm. "You dismissed everything I did. You mocked my wife. You treated my business like it was a hobby. And now you want me to throw it all away to fix Derek's mistakes." "They were not just mistakes," my father said. "He took risks. That is what successful people do. You were always too afraid to take risks, and now you are using that as an excuse to abandon your family." I looked at Derek. "Tell me the truth. If I give you this money, what are the chances you actually recover? What are the chances this is not just throwing good money after bad?" Derek could not meet my eyes. That told me everything I needed to know. "I am not destroying my life to delay the inevitable," I said. "Derek made his choices. He has to face the consequences." My mother stood up, her face twisted with anger and disappointment. "If you do not help, I will never forgive you. You are choosing money over family. You are choosing that woman and her dirt and chickens over your own blood." That was when Emma, who had been silent through the entire exchange, spoke for the first time. "That woman has a name," she said quietly. Her voice was calm, but there was steel in it. "And before you keep talking about Robert's money and property, I think you should know exactly whose land his workshop sits on." The room went quiet at Emma's words. Everyone turned to look at her. She stood beside me, her posture relaxed, but her eyes sharp and clear. I felt a moment of confusion myself. I knew the land had been a gift from her family, but I sensed there was more to this than I had understood. "What are you talking about?" Chloe said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Nobody cares about your little farm property arrangements." Emma smiled, but it was not a warm smile. "Derek, do you remember when Robert was looking for property for his workshop? Do you remember me telling you that my family helped you find the perfect spot?" Derek looked confused, his exhausted brain struggling to keep up. "Yeah, I guess. You knew the area, or something." "We did not just know the area," Emma said. "My family owns the area. The 10 acres where Robert's workshop sits, that land belongs to my family. We gave it to Robert as a wedding gift. No mortgage, no payments. Just a gift." I saw my parents exchange glances. My mother's mouth opened slightly. This was clearly news to them, Emma continued, her voice still calm and measured. "My family has owned land in that region for 4 generations. We have over 300 acres total. Some of it is the farm where I grew up, where my parents still live. Some of it is woodland that we maintain for conservation. And some of it, like the parcel we gave Robert, we hold for family use." Chloe let out a dismissive laugh. "So your family has some land. That does not change anything. Robert still needs to help Derek." "I am not finished," Emma said, and something in her tone made Chloe's mouth snap shut. "You have all spent years looking down on my family because we run a farm stand and live simply. You made jokes about vegetables and chickens. You suggested I needed to dress better, to fit in with your sophisticated lifestyle. You treated me like I was some ignorant country girl who did not understand the real world." My mother had the grace to look uncomfortable, though she said nothing. Emma pulled out her phone and opened a folder. "While you were all focused on appearances and status, my family was building something real. Our farm stand is not just a little roadside operation. It is part of a larger, sustainable agriculture business. We lease parcels of our land to organic food suppliers. We have contracts with 3 major grocery chains for specialty produce. My father manages over 100 acres of productive farmland that generates substantial income every year." She turned her phone to show a document. 2 months ago, a commercial developer approached my family. They wanted to buy 120 acres of our land on the eastern boundary. Their offer was $2.3 million. The number hung in the air like a thunderclap. My father's face went pale. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Derek looked up, his expression stunned. Even I was shocked. I had known Emma's family had land, but I had not realized the scope of their holdings or their value. "My parents called a family meeting to discuss the offer," Emma continued. "Robert and I drove out to the farm, and we all sat around the kitchen table. My father, my mother, my 2 brothers, Robert, and me. We talked about what the money could do, about opportunities and investments, and we decided to turn it down." She looked directly at my mother. "We turned down $2.3 million because we valued keeping the land in the family more than we valued the money. We wanted to preserve it for the next generation, to keep it available for family members who might need it, like we did for Robert when he needed space for his workshop." Chloe was staring at Emma like she was seeing her for the first time. "You turned down $2 million to keep empty land?" "It is not empty," Emma said patiently. "It is forest and meadow, habitat for wildlife, watershed protection for the creek that runs through it. It has value beyond money. But that is a concept your family seems to struggle with." My father found his voice. "Emma, if your family has that kind of wealth, surely you understand how important it is to help Derek. You could help us, and barely feel it." Emma shook her head slowly. "No, Mr. Patterson, you are missing the point. My family has resources because we built something real, something sustainable. We did not chase get-rich-quick schemes or gamble with money we could not afford to lose. We worked hard, lived within our means, and made careful decisions. That is how you build real wealth. She looked at Derek. You mocked Robert for working with his hands, for building furniture instead of playing with investments. But Robert creates real value. Every piece he makes will last for generations. He has clients who wait months for his work because they know it is worth having. That is real success. This is all very touching, my mother said, her voice tight. But it does not change the fact that Derek needs help. If you have the means to help, then do it. That is what decent people do. Emma's expression hardened. Decent people? For 3 years your family has treated me like I was not good enough to be part of it. You mocked my clothes, my interests, my background. You dismissed everything about me as unsophisticated and simple. You made Robert feel ashamed of his work and his choice to marry me. And now, in your moment of crisis, you expect me and my family to rescue you? The silence was absolute. I had never heard Emma speak with such controlled anger. Let me be very clear, Emma said. My family has the financial means to bail Derek out several times over. We could write a check today for $350,000 and still have substantial resources left. But we are not going to do that. Not because we are cruel, but because you have to face the consequences of your choices. And because respect is not something you can buy when you suddenly need it. Chloe's face had gone from pale to red. You smug little country nobody. You are standing there acting superior when your whole family is just a bunch of farmers playing at being business people. And yet we are not the ones facing bankruptcy and lawsuits, Emma said evenly. We are not the ones who gambled away our future on leveraged investments we did not understand. My family may be farmers, but we understand the value of hard work, of building slowly and sustainably. Those are lessons your family could benefit from learning. My father tried a different approach. Emma, please, think about Robert. This is his family. His brother could go to prison. His parents could lose their home. Can he really live with that? Emma looked at me, and I saw the question in her eyes. I took her hand and spoke to my father directly. I can live with it, I said, because Derek's problems are not my fault, and destroying my business will not solve them. All it will do is drag me down too. Emma and I have worked too hard to build our life to throw it away on a crisis that Derek created. Derek finally spoke, his voice hoarse. Robert, I am sorry. I am sorry for how I treated you. And Emma, I am sorry for being arrogant. I am sorry for the mess I made, but I am still your brother. Does that mean nothing? It means a lot, I said. It means I do not want to see you in prison. It means I hope you find a way through this. But it does not mean I am going to sacrifice everything I have to delay the inevitable. You are going to have to face this, Derek. You are going to have to accept responsibility and deal with the consequences. I can live with it, I said, because Derek's problems are not my fault, and destroying my business will not solve them. All it will do is drag me down too. Emma and I have worked too hard to build our life to throw it away on a crisis that Derek created. Emma squeezed my hand, and I knew she was with me, no matter what came next. Then I guess that is your choice to make, I said quietly. I turned toward the door, Emma beside me. Behind us, my mother was crying. My father was shouting about betrayal and selfishness. Chloe was saying something vicious about Emma. Derek sat in silence, his head in his hands. We walked out of the house and got into our truck. As we drove away, Emma was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. Are you okay? She asked. I do not know, I admitted, but I know we did the right thing. We did, she said. Your family has spent years telling you that you were not enough, that your choices were wrong. They cannot turn around and demand your help when their choices fall apart. I drove us home in silence, my mind churning with emotions I could not quite name. When we got back to our house, Emma went to check on her chickens, and I walked to my workshop. I stood inside the building I had constructed with my own hands, surrounded by tools I had collected over years, looking at the half-finished dining table on my workbench. This was what I had built. This was real. This was mine. And I was not going to let anyone take it from me. The week after the confrontation at my parents' house, I heard nothing from my family. No calls, no texts, not even angry voicemails. The silence was somehow worse than the fighting. I threw myself into work, spending long hours in the workshop, focusing on the precision of joints and the grain of wood, because it was something I could control. Emma went about her routines with her usual calm determination. She tended her garden, collected eggs from the chickens, and continued her online coursework. But I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way she checked her phone more often than usual, waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped on a Saturday morning. My father called, his voice formal and cold. "Your mother wants to talk to the whole family," he said. "Tomorrow afternoon at 2. She expects you and Emma to be there." "What is this about?" I asked. "Just be there," he said, and hung up. Emma and I debated whether to go. Part of me wanted to refuse, to draw a line and stick to it. But Emma pointed out that we needed to know what was happening, that avoiding the situation would not make it go away. So we drove to my parents' house the next day, both of us tense and uncertain about what we would find. When we arrived, Derek's car was already in the driveway. We walked into the house to find my parents, Derek and Chloe, all sitting in the living room. The atmosphere was thick with tension and resentment. My mother spoke first, her voice tight. "I asked you here because we need to settle this situation once and for all. Derek's lawyers have worked out a settlement arrangement. He needs $275,000 by the end of the month. If he does not come up with it, he will face criminal charges and almost certainly go to prison." I said nothing, waiting for the demand I knew was coming. "Your father and I have mortgaged this house," my mother continued. "We have borrowed against everything we have left. We can contribute $90,000. That leaves $185,000 still needed." Derek looked up at me, his eyes red-rimmed. "Robert, I know I do not deserve your help, but I am begging you. I have lost everything. Chloe and I are living in a studio apartment in a building with broken elevators. I am working at a grocery store to try to pay for groceries. My career is destroyed. I have nothing left, except the chance to stay out of prison." Chloe was crying quietly. "Please," she whispered. "I know I was terrible to you and Emma. I know I said awful things. I am sorry. We are just desperate." I felt Emma tense beside me. I kept my voice calm. "I understand you are desperate. I understand this is serious. But nothing has changed about my situation. I cannot give you money I do not have without destroying my business." My father's face hardened. "You have the workshop property. You could take out a loan against it. You could sell it if necessary. You are choosing not to help." "I am choosing to protect what I built," I said. "Just like you would choose to protect your house if someone asked you to give it away." "We are mortgaging our house," my mother said, her voice rising. "We are sacrificing everything to help Derek. Why will you not do the same?" "Because Derek is not my responsibility," I said. "He is an adult who made his own choices. I am sorry those choices had consequences, but I did not create this situation." Chloe's tears dried up suddenly, and she looked at Emma with pure hatred. "This is your fault," she spat. "You are the one telling Robert to abandon his family. You are poisoning him against us, because we were not impressed by your little farm girl routine." Emma's voice was quiet but clear. "I have not told Robert anything except to make his own choice. But since you brought it up, let me tell you what I think. I think your family has spent years measuring success by the wrong metrics. You valued appearances over substance, status over character. You taught Derek that taking risks with other people's money made him smart, that flashy displays of wealth meant he was winning. And now that those lessons have led to disaster, you want Robert to validate that approach by sacrificing himself to fix it." My mother stood up, shaking with anger. "How dare you lecture us about values? Your family lives in the middle of nowhere playing farmer. You have no idea what it takes to succeed in the real world." This was the moment. I saw it in Emma's eyes, the decision to reveal the truth she had only hinted at before. She pulled out her phone and opened her photos to a specific document, then handed the phone to my mother. "That is my family's most recent property tax assessment," Emma said calmly. "The land my family owns is valued at just over $4 million. The agricultural business generates approximately $300,000 in annual revenue. I finished my MBA in agricultural business management last month. I have been managing my family's commercial leasing contracts for the past year, while also helping Robert with his business accounting and planning. My mother stared at the phone screen, her face going from red to white. She handed the phone to my father without a word. He looked at it, then looked at Emma as if he had never seen her before. "You see," Emma continued, "while you were all looking down on me for growing vegetables and raising chickens, I was building a career in sustainable agriculture and land management. While you were mocking my simple clothes and lack of interest in fashion, I was studying business strategy and financial planning. You assumed I was ignorant and unsophisticated because I chose to live close to the land instead of in a high-rise apartment." Chloe grabbed the phone from my father and stared at the screen. "This cannot be real," she whispered. "It is very real," Emma said. "The property where Robert's workshop sits is worth approximately $500,000 on its own. We gave it to him free and clear because that is what families do when they actually value each other. My parents wanted Robert to have a place where he could build his dream without the burden of mortgage payments or rent." Derek was staring at Emma with his mouth slightly open. "The 10 acres, he said slowly. "You own the 10 acres. "My family owns it," Emma corrected, "and we chose to give it to Robert because we saw his talent, his dedication, his integrity. We saw someone worth investing in, not because of his potential to make money, but because of his character." My mother sank back into her chair. "You let us think you were just a simple farm girl." "I never lied about anything," Emma said. "You all made assumptions based on your own prejudices. You saw someone who wore jeans and grew tomatoes and decided that meant I was beneath you. You never bothered to ask about my education, my work, my family's business. You just wrote me off as unsophisticated." There was a long, painful silence. My father cleared his throat. "Emma, if your family has those kinds of resources, surely you can understand why we are asking for help. $200,000 would barely make a dent in your family's worth." Emma shook her head. "You are still not listening. My family has resources because we built them carefully, over generations. We did not gamble. We did not take on massive debt to look successful. We did not measure our worth by what other people thought of us. We worked hard, lived within our means, and made smart decisions. Those are the values that build real wealth." She looked directly at my mother. "You want my family's help? After 3 years of treating me like I was not good enough for your son? After mocking my parents and their farm? After suggesting I was holding Robert back from his potential? You think you can demand help from people you have disrespected?" Chloe made one last attempt, her voice desperate. "Please, Emma, I know I was wrong. I know I was terrible to you. But Derek could go to prison. Does that mean nothing to you?" Emma's expression softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. "It means I feel sad for him. It means I hope he finds a way forward. But it does not mean my family is going to rescue him from the consequences of his choices. Derek needs to face what he did, to take responsibility, to rebuild from the ground up. That is the only way he will actually learn and change." I watched my brother's face as Emma spoke. Something shifted in his expression, a kind of resignation mixed with the first glimmer of real understanding. "She is right," Derek said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. "Emma is right. I have been running from consequences my whole life. When I made bad investments, I doubled down instead of admitting I was wrong. When the development started falling apart, I hid it instead of facing it. And now I am sitting here expecting Robert to save me, just like I expected Mom and Dad to always make everything okay." He looked at me directly for the first time. "I do not deserve your help, Robert. I have been a terrible brother. I mocked your work because I was jealous that you actually built something real while I was just shuffling money around and pretending to be successful. I was mean to Emma because she was everything Chloe was not, genuine and grounded, and that threatened the image I was trying to maintain." Chloe started to protest, but Derek held up his hand. "No, Chloe, we both know it is true. We were so busy looking successful that we forgot to actually be successful. We cared more about what people thought than about building something that mattered." My mother was crying silently. My father sat with his head bowed, looking older than I had ever seen him. Derek stood up slowly. "I am going to figure this out on my own. I will take whatever plea deal my lawyer can get. I will serve time if I have to. I will work whatever job I can find and pay back what I owe. but I am done asking other people to fix my mistakes. He walked over to me and extended his hand. I am sorry, Robert. For everything. You deserved better from me. I shook his hand, not sure what to say. Derek turned to Emma. And I am sorry to you, Emma. You tried to be kind to my family even when we did not deserve it. Thank you for that. Emma nodded, accepting his apology with grace. As Derek and Chloe gathered their things to leave, my mother finally spoke. This is not over, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. She was starting to understand that her leverage was gone, that the world she thought she knew had shifted beneath her feet. The weeks following that confrontation brought a cascade of changes. Derek pleaded guilty to several counts of financial mismanagement and accepted a settlement that would keep him out of prison, but left him bankrupt and banned from working in finance for 10 years. He and Chloe moved into a small one-bedroom apartment in a working-class neighborhood, and Derek took a job as an assistant at a financial planning firm, doing basic administrative work for a fraction of what he once earned. My parents had to sell their house. The mortgage they had taken out, combined with their lost retirement savings, made it impossible to keep the place they had lived in for 25 years. They moved into a modest townhouse, and both took part-time jobs to supplement their reduced income. My father worked at a hardware store, my mother at a department store. The fall from their comfortable life was hard and humbling. I heard these updates in bits and pieces, mostly from Derek himself. 2 months after the confrontation, he started calling me occasionally, brief conversations where he updated me on his situation and asked about my work. The calls were awkward at first, stilted and formal, but gradually they became more natural. He never asked for money or help, just talked like a brother trying to rebuild a relationship he had damaged. 3 months after everything fell apart, Derek showed up at my workshop on a Saturday morning. I was surprised to see him, but I invited him in. He looked around at the space with genuine interest, running his hand along a walnut table I was finishing. "This is beautiful work," he said. "I do not think I ever really looked at what you do before. I just dismissed it as manual labor. But this is art." The weeks following that confrontation brought a cascade of changes. Derek pleaded guilty to several counts of financial mismanagement and accepted a settlement that would keep him out of prison, but left him bankrupt and banned from working in finance for 10 years. He and Chloe moved into a small one-bedroom apartment in a working-class neighborhood, and Derek took a job as an assistant at a financial planning firm, doing basic administrative work for a fraction of what he once earned. "I was wondering," Derek said, his voice uncertain, "if maybe you could teach me some basic woodworking. I am not looking for a job or anything. I just want to learn something real, something where I create value instead of just moving it around." I studied my brother's face. He looked tired and older, but there was something different in his eyes. The arrogance was gone, replaced by genuine humility. "I would like that," I said. So Derek started coming to my workshop on weekends. I taught him basic skills: how to measure and cut accurately, how to read the grain of wood, how to use hand tools. He was terrible at first, frustrated by his own lack of coordination and patience. But he kept showing up, kept trying, kept learning. One Saturday, while we were working together, Derek brought up Chloe. "She is different now," he said. "We both are. Losing everything. It stripped away all the pretense. We had to figure out who we actually are when we are not performing success." "How is she doing?" I asked. "Better than I expected," Derek admitted. "She found a job at a small boutique, helping them with their window displays and social media. She makes a third of what she used to earn, but she actually seems happier. She comes home and talks about the work like it matters, like she is contributing something real." He paused, measuring a board. "The other night we were eating dinner, leftovers from a meal we cooked together in our tiny kitchen, and Chloe said something that hit me hard. She said this was the first time in years she felt like herself, like she did not have to pretend to be someone she was not. I knew what he meant. I had seen that same authenticity in Emma from the day I met her. Emma herself was watching Derek's transformation with cautious optimism. She and Chloe had started talking occasionally, brief conversations that were tentative but honest. Chloe had apologized to Emma formally, a real apology that acknowledged specific hurtful things she had said and done. Emma had accepted it with her characteristic grace. My parents were slower to change. My mother still struggled with anger and resentment, feeling that I had abandoned the family when they needed me most. But my father had started coming to the workshop too, not to learn woodworking but just to talk. He would sit on a stool in the corner and watch me work, and gradually he started opening up about his own regrets. "I pushed Derek to be something he was not ready for," my father said one evening. "I put all this pressure on him to be successful, to make me proud, and I never taught him the value of failure or the importance of building slowly. I taught him that what mattered was how things looked, not how they actually were." He looked at me with tears in his eyes. "And I ignored you because you did not fit the image I had of success. You were building something real, something sustainable, and I dismissed it because it was not flashy. I am sorry, son. I should have been proud of you all along." It was a hard conversation, emotional and painful, but it was real in a way my family's interactions had never been before. My father started working on his relationship with Emma too, asking her about her work and her family's farm, listening with genuine interest instead of condescending curiosity. My mother took longer. She could not quite let go of her resentment, her sense that the world had treated her unfairly. But one afternoon, she called and asked if she could come over to our house. Emma and I agreed, both nervous about what she might say. She arrived carrying a small plant, a tomato seedling in a plastic pot. "I remembered Emma talking about growing vegetables," she said stiffly. "I thought maybe she could show me how. I have a little space on my patio at the townhouse." Emma's face lit up, and she took my mother out to the garden. I watched from the kitchen window as Emma showed her how to check the soil, how to identify healthy growth, how to support the plant as it grew. My mother listened carefully, asking questions, getting her hands dirty for perhaps the first time in decades. When they came back inside, my mother's posture was different, less rigid and defensive. She looked at me and said, simply, "I am sorry. I was wrong about a lot of things. I am trying to learn better." It was not everything, but it was a start. The biggest change came from Derek himself. 6 months after his world collapsed, he came to Sunday dinner at our house, a tradition Emma had started as a way to slowly rebuild family connections. Derek, Chloe, my parents, and sometimes Emma's parents all gathered around our table for simple meals and honest conversation. That particular Sunday, after we had finished eating, Derek asked if he could say something to everyone. We all turned to listen. "I have been thinking a lot about what happened," he said, "about the choices I made and why I made them, and I realized that I spent years chasing something that was not real. I wanted people to think I was successful more than I wanted to actually be successful. I wanted the appearance of wealth more than I wanted the substance of it." He looked at Emma. "Emma, your family has real wealth because they built it on a foundation of hard work and careful choices. Robert has real success because he creates value that lasts. I had nothing real, just leverage and debt and performance. And when it all fell apart, there was nothing underneath to catch me because I had never built anything solid." He turned to me. "Robert, I do not expect you to forgive me completely, not yet. But I want you to know that refusing to bail me out was the best thing you could have done for me. If you had given me that money, I would have learned nothing. I would have thought I could keep taking risks with other people's resources, and someone would always save me. You forced me to face what I did, and that is the only reason I am becoming a better person." Chloe reached for his hand. "We are both becoming better people," she said. "This has been horrible and humbling and painful, but it has also been honest. We know who we are now. We know what matters." My mother wiped her eyes. My father nodded slowly. Emma smiled, that warm, genuine smile that had made me fall in love with her years ago. Later that night, after everyone had left, Emma and I sat on our porch watching the sunset. She leaned against me, and I put my arm around her shoulders. "Your family is healing," she said softly. "Because you showed them what real values look like," I replied. She shook her head. "No, because they were willing to learn. That takes courage." I thought about my brother learning woodworking, my father learning to listen, my mother learning to grow tomatoes. I thought about all the ways pride and pretense had damaged my family, and all the ways humility and honesty were slowly rebuilding it. "Thank you," I said to Emma, "for standing with me, for being who you are, for not letting them convince you that you were less than you are." She turned and kissed me. "I never doubted what we have. I just hoped your family would someday see it too." A year after Derek's financial collapse, my family gathered at Emma's parents' farm for the first time. It was a warm day in late spring, and Patricia had invited everyone for what she called a planting celebration, a tradition where the family spent the day preparing gardens and fields for the growing season. I watched my mother work alongside Patricia, both of them on their knees in the dirt transplanting tomato seedlings. My mother's hands, once manicured and soft, were developing calluses. She was laughing at something Patricia said, a real laugh, not the polite performance laugh I had grown up hearing. My father and Tom worked together repairing a fence at the edge of the property, their conversation easy and comfortable. My father had started spending more time at the workshop, and he and I had built a small bookshelf together for my parents' townhouse. He kept photos on it now, pictures of the family not arranged for show but gathered naturally from real moments. Derek stood beside me, watching the activity. He had continued learning woodworking and had recently completed his first real project, a small table that now sat in his and Chloe's apartment. He was proud of it in a way that was completely different from how he had been proud of his investment deals. This pride was quiet and deep, rooted in the knowledge that he had created something with his own hands. "I was thinking about taking some agriculture courses," Derek said. "Maybe online like Emma did with her MBA. I am not going to become a farmer or anything, but I want to understand how real businesses work, how you build value over time instead of just shuffling money around." "That sounds good," I said. "Emma could probably recommend some programs." Chloe was helping Emma collect eggs from the chicken coop, both of them chatting and laughing. Chloe had let her hair return to its natural color and wore jeans and a simple shirt. She looked more like herself than I had ever seen her, comfortable in her own skin, instead of constantly performing an image. "Can I tell you something?" Derek asked, his voice quiet. "I used to think you were weak. I thought you settled for less because you were not smart enough or ambitious enough to go after more. I thought Emma was holding you back from your potential." He paused, watching Emma and Chloe walk back from the chicken coop, carrying baskets of fresh eggs. "But you were the strong one all along. You had the courage to build something real instead of chasing illusions. You chose a partner based on who she actually was, not on how she looked on your arm at parties. You had the strength to say no when your whole family was pressuring you to destroy yourself to save me." I did not know what to say, so I just nodded. "I am glad you said no," Derek continued. "I needed to hit bottom. I needed to lose everything so I could figure out what actually matters. And now, for the first time in my life, I feel like I am building something real. It is small and slow, and nobody is impressed by it. But it is mine. It is honest." Emma called us over to help carry vegetables into the farmhouse kitchen. We all worked together preparing lunch, chopping and cooking and talking. The conversation flowed naturally, filled with jokes and stories and genuine interest in each other's lives. As we sat down to eat, Tom stood and cleared his throat. "I just want to say how glad Patricia and I are to have all of you here today. Emma and Robert, you built a good life together based on solid values. Derek and Chloe, we have watched you work hard to rebuild after your troubles, and we respect the courage that takes. And to Robert's parents, we are glad to be sharing this day with you." My mother stood up, her voice shaking slightly. "I need to say something too. I spent years caring about the wrong things. I taught my sons that what mattered was status and appearances, that success meant impressing other people. I looked down on Emma and her family because I thought I was better, more sophisticated, more successful. But I was wrong about everything that matters." She looked at Emma. "Emma, you and your family have more real success than I ever understood. You built something that lasts, that means something, that helps people and enriches lives. I am sorry it took me so long to see that. I am sorry for how I treated you." Emma stood and hugged my mother, and I saw tears on both their faces. The meal was simple but delicious. Vegetables from the farm, bread Patricia had baked that morning, chicken from the flock Emma and Chloe had collected eggs from earlier. We ate and talked and laughed, and it felt like family in a way that all our fancy restaurant dinners never had. After lunch, Derek and I walked out to the edge of the property where the land sloped down toward a creek. We stood in silence for a while, just looking at the water and the trees. "Do you remember that night I showed up drunk at your workshop?" Derek asked. "When I was rambling about the development deal falling apart." "I remember. I was terrified that night. Not just of losing money, but of everyone finding out I did not actually know what I was doing. I had been faking it for so long, pretending to understand complex financial instruments that I only barely grasped. I thought if I acted confident enough, if I made enough money, nobody would ever question whether I actually had substance behind the performance." He picked up a stone and tossed it into the creek. "But you knew. Even back then, you knew I was hollow inside. That is why you did not invest with me. You saw through the act." "I did not see through anything," I said honestly. "I just knew I did not understand what you were doing, and I was not willing to gamble on something I did not understand." "That is wisdom," Derek said. "Real wisdom, knowing your own limitations and working within them. I thought wisdom was about taking big risks and betting everything on high returns. But real wisdom is about building slowly, learning constantly, and never pretending to know more than you do." We walked back to the farmhouse together. On the porch, I saw Emma sitting with Patricia, both of them shelling peas and talking quietly. My father and Tom were examining a piece of farm equipment, my father asking questions and Tom explaining patiently. Chloe and my mother were washing dishes together in the kitchen, visible through the window. This was what family was supposed to look like. Not performances and competitions, not status displays and one-upmanship, but people working together, learning from each other, building something together that mattered. As the sun started to set, we all gathered on the porch. Emma brought out a pie she had made from last year's preserved cherries, and we ate it while watching the sky turn orange and pink. "I have been thinking about what to do with the eastern parcel," Tom said. "The land the developers wanted to buy. Emma and I have been talking about maybe setting it up as a conservation easement, preserving it permanently as wildlife habitat." "That is a beautiful idea," my mother said. "Preserving something for future generations instead of just cashing out." Tom smiled. "That is what real wealth is about. Not how much you can get for something, but what you can build and protect and pass on." I looked around at my family, all of us changed by the events of the past year. Derek had learned that true success comes from creating real value, not from performing success. Chloe had discovered that authenticity brings more satisfaction than image. My parents had learned that wisdom and worth come in many forms, not just the ones they had been taught to value. As the sun started to set, we all gathered on the porch. Emma brought out a pie she had made from last year's preserved cherries, and we ate it while watching the sky turn orange and pink. As the sun started to set, we all gathered on the porch. Emma brought out a pie she had made from last year's preserved cherries, and we ate it while watching the sky turn orange and pink. And I had learned that standing firm in your values, even when everyone you love is pressuring you to abandon them, is the only way to build a life that lasts. "People can change," Emma said, "when they are willing to face hard truths and do the work. Your family did that work." I thought about Derek's hands, developing calluses from woodworking. I thought about my mother's tomato plants, thriving on her patio. I thought about my father, learning to value craftsmanship and patience. "Thank you," I said again, as I had said so many times over the past year, "for being you, for showing my family what real values look like, for standing with me when it would have been easier to give in." Emma smiled. "That is what partners do. We stand together, we hold to our values, and we build something real." "It was," I agreed. "A year ago, I never would have imagined my whole family spending the day at your parents' farm. But those who quietly build substance, who work with their hands and their hearts to create real value, will outlast any storm." Success is not about impressing others or accumulating things. It is about knowing who you are, choosing a partner who shares your values, and having the courage to build a life that matters even when others mock you for it. The people who look down on honest work and simple living are often the ones who have built their lives on sand. When the storms come, and they always do, Only those with solid foundations will remain standing. The life lesson that came from our family's crisis was simple but profound. True wealth is not measured by status symbols or flashy displays of success. It is measured by the depth of your character, the strength of your relationships, and the integrity with which you build your life. Those who chase external validation and perform success will always be vulnerable because there is nothing solid beneath the performance. Emma's quiet strength, her family's generational wisdom, and her refusal to be defined by others' opinions had saved us both. She showed my family that real sophistication is about substance, not style. Real success is about creating value, not performing it. And real wealth is about building something that lasts, something that enriches not just your own life but the lives of those around you. As we pulled into our driveway, I looked at our house, modest and comfortable, surrounded by Emma's gardens. I looked at my workshop in the distance, solid and productive. I thought about the life we had built together, rooted in honest work and genuine values. This was real success. This was true wealth. And no amount of pressure or mockery or family drama could take it from us, because it was built on a foundation that could not be shaken. What do you think is more important, building real substance or performing success for others? Have you ever had to stand firm in your values when everyone around you pressured you to compromise? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe for more stories about finding your way through life's challenges. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message about the difference between real and performed success, please share this story with them. Thank you for listening. And remember, the strongest foundations are built slowly, honestly, and with integrity. May you have the courage to build something real, no matter who questions your choices along the way.